Hi all. In our today's session, let's discuss about cloud and cloud computing in detail. Right? So let's first start. What is cloud? So the cloud refers to the softwares and services that run on the internet instead of locally on your computer. Okay. Most cloud services can be accessed through a web browser like say Firefox or Google Chrome, whereas some companies offer dedicated mobile applications. Right? The advantage of the cloud is that you can access your information on any device which has an internet connection. Okay, you can access your data from anywhere at any point of time without of the fear of losing your data. Right? Say consider an example where you access your Facebook account on your phone. Okay, all of a sudden your phone crashed and it stopped working. So is it that you can't access your Facebook account anymore? No, right? You get a new phone, you install the app, provide your credentials, and you are back to your Facebook. Also, you can access the same account from your phone, your laptop, and from any device for that matter, right? And you can access from your home, your college, office, and from anywhere, right? So that is cloud. We could do this because the data is residing in the cloud. Okay, so the cloud enables users to access the same files and applications from anywhere, anytime, because the computing and storage takes place on servers in a data center instead of locally on the user drive. Clear? So it works the same way with cloud email providers like, say, Gmail, Office 365, and also with cloud storage providers like Dropbox or Google Drive, etc. Okay? So it is also defined that cloud is a global network of servers around the world acting as one massive hard drive. Right? So the cloud is simply collection of servers hosted in a massive acre-filling complexes that are owned by some of the world's largest corporations. Right? So companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and Apple have invested huge sums in creating homes for our personal data. Right? So, what it means is our data sits on a computer which we don't have access to. So, this is how one of the Amazon data center building looks like. They have data centers all over the world. So, inside the data center, you can see this. It is a collection of servers where our data is residing. The data centers are specialized buildings that usually are highly secure. Inside, you can see a raised floor environment. So what that means is the white tiles down here are called the raised floor. So you can take each tile and underneath you can find a kind of about 12 to 18-inch empty space with a bunch of wires running through it. And they are basically four components that really go into this data center. What are they? They are computer servers, the storage, which is generally either hard drive or storage area networks, and then tons and tons of electricity and tons of air conditioning. So here you can also notice that the walls are very thick because all these components generates a tremendous amount of heat and they have to keep things cool in order for them to run correctly. So this is about a data center, and cloud is just a bunch of connected data centers. Clear? So also you might get a doubt. Say there is an earthquake at this place or a bomb blast at this data center. So if something as such happens, is my data lost? Are my photos, videos on Facebook are all gone? Right? Well, your data is never lost. While storing your data in the data center, your data is actually replicated, which means it's copied in other data centers as well. So even if one data center is down, your data is still available. Clear? So then, one more important thing here is the cloud providers actually have the physical data centers to provide virtualized services to their users through internet. So the cloud providers often provide separation between applications and data. The underlying physical missions are generally organized in grids and they are usually geographically distributed. Clear? So virtualization plays an important role in the cloud scenario. The data center hosts provide the physical hardware on which the virtual machine resides. User potentially can use any operating system that the virtual machine is using. Here, you can find the sharing of leading cloud infrastructure service providers in 2001 quadrant 1. So you can see AWS has 32%. Next comes the Azure, Google Cloud, etc. Okay, so this is all about cloud. So let's now talk about cloud computing in detail. Cloud computing is nothing but use of remote servers on the internet for doing a particular task. So, say if I have an application that needs very high processing power, what I would do instead of having my own servers, I will rent a server from cloud provider and do remote desktop or SSH to that server and put my application over there, and I'll pay for what I have used. This is called cloud computing. It is as cheap as a point, not $5 per hour. Yeah. So Forrester or Gartner, these are research and advisory companies. Okay? So Forrester defined it as a pool of abstracted, highly scalable, and managed computer infrastructure capable of hosting end customer applications and built by consumption. Clear? So let me elaborate more about the earlier scenario which we have discussed. Consider I have an idea and I've started building my application. So in order to host this, I will need a stack of servers, right? And this have to be connected to internet. Only then it will be accessed by the user, correct? And now in order to make these servers connected to the internet, we have to configure them manually, correct? We will need a static IP address for which we need to contact internet service providers, right? So user can go to one static IP address and access that application. Next, for easy reference, we need to have a domain name also, right? You all know domain name, right? IP address will be something like this 192.168.1.1. And this will be very difficult to remember, correct? But when you say www.facebook.com, it's very easy to remember, right? So this www.facebook.com is the domain name given to that IP address. So when you type this internally, your domain name is converted into IP address and your request will reach to that server. So we need to have a domain name. This domain name is converted to IP address by DNS server, and the IP address will point to that server. So we need to buy a domain name that maps IP addresses to it. Correct? And to manage these servers, we will need an administrator, air conditioner, power supply, and everything, all that we have discussed earlier. Correct? But now, if I go for cloud computing, I will build my application. I will simply go to AWS, launch a stack of servers, and put my application over there. So then AWS automatically gives me a static IP address, and it has a DNS server that gives me a domain name as well. I will just give a name to my domain, configure the IP address, and that's it. I'm done. Earlier, we have seen that to launch an application with planning, implementation, it goes up to 4 months. And now with cloud computing, it is just done in 30 minutes. Also, it is very, very cheap. And moreover, I'll pay only for what I have used. So most of the companies that are started recently always go for cloud computing. Only those companies that are there before cloud computing are still managing with their servers. If you observe, there are many startup companies recently. That is only because of this cloud computing. It makes work easy and with less cost. So people having different ideas are starting and they are trying their luck. Clear? So the advantages are little or no investment, more focus on application development, and requires less workforce. So why companies are moving to cloud? Let me tell you one example. Netflix. You all know Netflix, right? It is a movie streaming service. Netflix have suffered outage around 2008 or so. Many users came up to use this service and the application suddenly crashed. It resulted in a huge loss to the company. And that is when they decided to concentrate only on the application development. And they decided to hand over the infrastructure to a cloud provider. So then they launched the application on AWS, which is highly scalable, highly available, and there is never a downtime to it. Clear? So that is why Netflix have moved from on-premise to cloud. And there are many more, like Amazon e-commerce website is hosted on AWS. Prime Video, which is competitor to Netflix, is hosted on AWS. Right? So how is this movie streaming service works is videos are hosted in Amazon S3 bucket and they're delivered to you by the content delivery network. It is a caching system. So you are in India and watching US television show. Obviously, that show is hosted in AWS US servers, right? And if you're viewing in India, it doesn't make any sense to stream from US, correct? So the server has to be connected from US to Indian client, which is a very long way. And so latency comes into picture. Latency, which means delay in delivery. So how your application is responding to the queries depends upon how far the server is hosted, correct? So the content delivery network caches all the videos and they store in the Indian server. Clear? So that's how the movie streaming service works. And the famous cloud products are Amazon, Netflix, Prime Video, etc. So that's all about our today's session. Hope you got some information about cloud and cloud computing. Thank you.